Welcome to Delay the Decay, the podcast for unashamedly ambitious people who want to live longer, lead better, and love deeper, prioritizing what matters most. I'm your host, Dan Harty, coach, entrepreneur, and former pastor, here to help you build a life of more intentional direction, not perfection, across 5 life domains: spiritual, relational, physical, mental, and financial. Welcome to another episode of the Delay the Decay podcast. Today, I'm joined by Jeremey and Amy Houlton. They are entrepreneurs and real estate professionals. They're a husband and wife team shaped by faith, resilience, and rebuilding. They've been married 24 years and they have 3 beautiful daughters. For 8 years, they served in vocational ministry and helped launch Choice City Church in Fort Collins, where they walk closely with people through seasons of growth, uncertainty, and transition. Jeremey is a certified financial planner, entrepreneur, and a stroke survivor whose work spans financial planning and business leadership. Amy is a real estate agent known for her steady, people-centered approach, and together they now guide individuals and families through major life transitions. Earlier this year, they launched the $1 Million Marriage, a community for entrepreneurial couples who want to build businesses, families, and a shared legacy with intention and alignment. Looking ahead, Jeremey is increasingly focused on helping men rebuild their life after they've been knocked down, while Amy is expanding her work with women navigating midlife, especially around health, wellness, and their next chapter. Jeremey and Amy, it is such a joy to have you on this podcast. Thank you for taking time out.
So glad to be here, Dan. Thank you.
Glad to be here.
As you think through in 2026, look back on 2025, what's one habit or discipline that you have incorporated into your life to help you move upwards and to the right?
I think the one that has made the biggest noticeable impact on us is something we incorporated this last year, which was
gratitude,
the daily practice of gratitude.
Yep.
Taking time to articulate to God our gratefulness for the wonder of what He's brought into our life. Mm-hmm. It struck me last summer that there was one particular day, and I thought, for whatever reason, I thought something could easily happen in my life in 2 weeks. It was so devastating that if I were able to come back to this moment right now, I would probably give anything to be able to do that. Which means that right now my life is full of wonder, but if I were to, lose a limb or something crazy, or lose a family member or part of my brain, as the case may be, if life were to drastically change in a negative way, I would give anything to come back to this moment, which means that this moment is full of wonder, and every moment is. It's full of so many things that we are taking for granted.
As Christians, we've always prioritized prayer and daily reading of the Word, but the practice of gratitude was new for us this last year, and it had a huge impact on how we were able to walk through suffering with a heart that was trusting in the goodness of God. Yeah,
that practice built a reflex so that when I had the stroke, for both Amy and I, gratitude was the muscle that flexed most easily. One of the results of having a stroke is that emotional regulation gets a little tougher. But one of the things that I've learned, I've done a lot of study on the brain since then, is that gratitude actually, it activates the prefrontal cortex, and gratitude helps rewire the reticular activating system to see good. So it actually, the brain science is that when you make gratitude a practice, you're actually training your brain to see good in the world.
That blows me away. We know that in the Bible, Paul says, be thankful always and in everything. And we go like, really? Like always and in everything? And there's a spiritual component to it, because we know that God is we know He's good. Like He doesn't take any pleasure in our sicknesses. But who would have ever thought that it's actually good for us?
Yep.
that is actually good for our physical health and our cognitive growth.
Yeah.
And it's all over the place in the scriptures. What you're setting your mind on is very, very important. I think gratitude just does the work of priming the pump to see the good and the beautiful and the lovely things in the world, which are all around us for sure. Like way more than we realize.
What are you both most thankful for in this season? In this season of your specific season of life? What are you most thankful for?
I mean, obviously, the Lord and his goodness and mercy and grace that has been carrying us through a hard season. But beyond that, I think having walked through the suffering of the last 7 years, we've had quite a journey. But specifically with Jeremy's stroke in the last 3 months, there is a new delight in the gift of life and the gift of the people that God has placed in our life. And it's really been a slow down and kind of take a look at our life and figure out what's the noise we need to cut out and what are the important things to really hone in and focus on at this season of life. And, we're midlife, we're in our late 40s, and we're looking at the future, and we're going to be empty nesters soon. And we're already doing a lot of work on our marriage. And then this hit. And I think it's just been something that's helped us to really focus in on the people we love and the things that are important in life.
Yeah.
I'm gonna press in a little. What are some of the things that you need to eliminate from your life? You talked about that.
Well, I think hustle grind culture in some sense, because we were just go, 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 go. Socially, we were out all the time. We'd go out for happy hours, for business meetings, or we were leading a couple different groups, and then building businesses at this season of life. And so everything was just late nights, early mornings, constant go, go, go. And this is a forced slowdown at many levels.
Yeah. This inability to slow down means that you're just not very present,
So how are you? It's one thing realizing you need better sleep habits. It's another thing trying to develop those. How are you? How many hours are you trying to hit? And what kind of supplements or mindset are you taking to bed with you?
We were up till like midnight, 1, 2 on a regular basis. And it's like we're going to bed at like 8 or 9 o'clock, and just hitting unwind much earlier feels like it helps us win the next day as well, because we're more rested.
We're going up early. We're taking our showers. I'm doing Sudoku, so things that just get my mind off, keep me from scrolling on a phone or watching a movie. It's just something that helps me unwind and get my brain in a different space. And then we've got different teas that we'll do at night. So kind of a routine of having some hot tea and little foot rubs, essential oils.
I would also mention probably just slowing down alcohol intake. Alcohol is relaxing at the end of the day, but it's not healthy for me right now.
Yeah, in January we're planning on cutting it out, and he's already cut it out completely with what he's learned about his brain recovery, but I'm going to join him in that just for our good habits.
You guys said something yesterday, and there's so much I want to talk to you about, and I'm probably getting ahead of things, but you both have a passion to not just coast in life. And that's a passion for yourselves, and it's also a message that you have for other people. That life to the full, the life that Jesus came to give us, doesn't come from coasting. It comes from living intentionally. And everything you guys just described is intentional. Going to sleep, playing Sudoku, the foot rubs, right? All of that stuff. And so I commend you on that, and really want to encourage my audience as well. As we're going into the new year, it's a great time just to reset, right? whether it be alcohol or sleep or whatnot. And anything you want to add to that?
In the past several years, we always, we're those people that do dry January, and we truly love the fresh start to the new year. And it's always been a great kickstart for us. So I think there's a lot of value in New Year's resolutions and setting a vision for this next year and starting it strong.
Or at least a New Year reset.
Right.
I'm a big believer in, like, it's okay. Let's just do a fresh start. Resets are we always get a lot of traction out of that. New Year is just a very easy one to leverage.
And in addition to dry January, we would usually do some kind of new diet. So often keto for January, and just kind of getting some of the fat off from Christmas.
Just get dialed in, Drift is basically aimlessness. It's like it's a boat in the ocean with no destination. It's just floating. But the opposite of drift is
intentionality,
definiteness of purpose. Setting your eye on something and working toward it with intentionality. Yep.
Hey, I hope you had a great Christmas. Now that the holidays are over, it's time to get serious about 2026. If you're like most people, it's not a lack of desire that derails your New Year's goals. It's a lack of structure and support. And that's exactly why we created the 40-Day Fight. Starting Monday, January 5th, you'll reset your priorities across 5 life domains: spiritual, relational, physical, mental, and financial, by taking a customized assessment that gives you a personalized yet simple plan designed to create real change that leads to real joy. You'll receive a short daily devotion by text and email, plus access to an online community for encouragement, accountability, and the sharing of transformational ideas, along with other resources like a macro counter and an optional fitness assessment with 3 workout tracks. So for more information, click the interest link in the show notes, and let's start 2026 with a sure direction and not perfection. Looking forward to journeying with you in 2026. I so love that. Let's go back. When I first met you two, it was a long time ago. It was probably, maybe late 90s? Is that when you were at Mountain View?
We just celebrated our 24th anniversary, and we came to Mountain View about 6 months before that. Okay. So it's probably about 24 years ago.
And then you guys took off and went to seminary and spent years up there serving in a ministry up there. Walk us through your story a little bit, if you would, because it's a story of grit and perseverance and highs and lows. It's a story shaped by trials and perseverance. And walk us through that a little bit, however you want to do it.
Yeah, that was in 2004. We went to Minneapolis.
Yeah, our oldest daughter had just been born, and we moved to Minneapolis, where you could get trained by John Piper.
Yeah, I went to the Bethlehem College and Seminary. At the time, it was called the Bethlehem Institute, and I just studied rigorously biblical exegesis and theology. And then from there, we went to Wheaton graduate school.
At that point, we had our second child, and then the third came.
Yep. So I did a program at Wheaton in biblical exegesis. I wanted to know how to study the Bible responsibly. And it was during our time in Wheaton that we decided we wanted to come back to Colorado and church plant. And so we came back with the intention of planting a church originally in Boulder, and then we switched it to Denver. And we kind of worked on that for about a year, but it never really materialized. I took a position as a lead pastor of a church out in New York, New Hope Fellowship in Tarrytown, New York.
Which was a 99% Asian American population. And kind of cool for me, I was an Asian studies major with a minor in Japanese in college. So that was a neat connection for us.
It was sweet. I mean, that was a wonderful congregation, and
They were so loving.
yeah, we loved them. We did, I think, a lot of good work out there. We worked a lot on
The marriages there.
yeah, helping that church think through what biblical marriage is.
Their previous pastor was single, and so when we came in, it was a lot of young families, and Jeremy put together a marriage study that we did in our home and kind of rotated each of the couples through.
And how long were you out there? 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah. And then back to Colorado?
We
And
did
back to
because
Colorado.
part of what, our vision had always been a vision for church planting. And while we were there, that wasn't necessarily their vision. They came to understand and appreciate it. But because of that, they sent us off with financial support so we could come back to Colorado and plant a church in Colorado.
So we came back in what, 2011?
2013
2013. We came back to Colorado and we planted Choice City Church in Fort Collins.
in 2014. Yep.
How was that experience? Like I don't know if I ever asked you, like how did that go? Like what were the highs? What were some of the hard things?
Again, we had a really loving community. It felt like a family. There was never any scandal or real trial, honestly, apart from financially.
It's hard to get it to grow.
Yeah, we couldn't get it to grow. And so financially at year 3, we lost all outside funding and realized we can't keep doing this.
Yeah. Because of the entrepreneurial kind of spirit, it was a really fun experiment to just be like, hey, if we could build a church from the ground up, what would we do? What kind of culture would we try to build? And for me, I love building things conceptually, or projects, or it turns out businesses. So we just poured our heart and soul into this thing. And
I will say it was exhausting.
it was.
For both of us, but for me, I felt really, I loved the people, but I felt drained by it because of the amount that we did ourselves. So for me, it was hosting multiple times a week, hosting a lunch after church, small group at our house, the youth group. I helped lead worship, and I brought the snacks every Sunday, and it was that plus homeschooling my kids, and it was a lot.
Yeah, you're in up to your neck.
And you do it in hopes that this is what God has been calling you to your whole life. All the preparation is leading to something. And part of what's so hard in our story is that we sacrificed and we gave, and we really gave up everything of worldly value to come to this place that we believed God was going to bless and multiply. And then it just kind of suddenly came to an end. And in the last 7 years since that, 8 years since that happened, have been the most disorienting of our entire life, because that thing that we gave everything to, that thing we trusted God in faith for, didn't work out the way we thought it would. And then it was like, well, now what? I mean, we have to survive, so we need to figure out how to make some money. And that's really been kind of the part of the journey from there till now.
Yeah. It was a broken dream, and with that came a loss of identity and a loss of like a sense of purpose. And this is where drift begins, right? This kind of thing sets drift into play if you don't watch it.
And it left us homeless and living in an RV. We had to sell our home under distress and move into his parents' RV and homeschool the kids there and move it somewhere that was warm because it wasn't weatherproofed. And
I'm so sorry you went through that. As you guys know, my audience may not know, but I was the regional director of the church planting network that funded you guys partially and that type of thing. And I'm really bummed that I didn't know more of your story.
We don't lay blame at anybody's feet. It was,
the Lord
the Lord
for
knew.
whatever reason.
Yep.
Let me ask you a question. You are, in some ways, you're serial entrepreneurs. Did this church planting experience fuel that in you? Did it confirm that in you? Because a lot of people don't know, but church planting is I mean, it takes an entrepreneurial mindset to even want to step
For
into it.
sure.
But so did it confirm something that you didn't know was there, or did you know it was there when you went into the church planting? This entrepreneurial mindset.
I think I think I felt more like I realized afterwards that entrepreneurial lifestyle or entrepreneurialism is something that I that was very life-giving for me. I don't think I knew it going in. I think I just had an incredible amount of energy.
Hmm. And I had no idea what I would be good at. I never thought of a career. I was homeschooling my kids and a helper to him with ministry all those years, and had gotten my degree in Asian studies. And so, there wasn't any real entrepreneurial thoughts in my mind at all until we were put in a crisis where we had to figure it out. And then the creative energy and my family background in real estate is where I started, because we ended up landing in San Diego. He got a job, a really well-paying job as a construction manager out there. And so and my kids now were in a private school. So I had this time, and then COVID hit. And so I didn't get to practice. But through that, we moved back here. And since we moved back here, I mean, it's just been idea after idea. And I would say, especially the last 2 years since we came under the mentorship of a woman named Danelle Delgado, who is our business coach. And she's been really helpful for us thinking through different business ideas, including the Million Dollar Marriage group that we had started. So, but before that, I'll just say when the church plant ended and we moved to San Diego, that's when we started investing. And so that was kind of the beginning of us working together on investing in real estate, starting businesses related to that.
Yeah, we did some property management and like Amy said, some construction management, some admin work for a construction manager, which is how I got into that field.
And then we purchased 25 units of property.
Yeah, it sort of unfolded after the church plant, and then yeah, the natural course of life. I ended up selling insurance for New York Life, and that was kind of set us on another direction of business ownership. I became a certified financial planner and started my own firm.
What do you think about? Sometimes we've just got to make money. I mean, there's bills to pay, there's mouths to feed, all that. We just got to make money. But with that mindset, long term isn't going to serve us well. It's How did you find out like what you're interested in, how you're wired, and to be able to pursue some things that not only have the potential to provide, but also bring joy and fulfillment. Have you thought through some of that? I'm sure you have.
Well, yeah, because I hated construction
Okay,
management.
and it paid well.
I was like,
I loved how it paid the bills.
yeah, that was nice. It brought a lot of relief financially, but I was like, I'm gonna die if I keep doing this. It was miserable. So I think if you can find something, you got to pay the bills. You have to pay the bills. And especially as a man, I was like, even if I don't like this, that doesn't matter. I have to pay the bills, and this is my responsibility to make sure my family's okay. And it was wearing me down, and I felt after being a pastor, being a construction manager just didn't have the same level of like sense of purpose and impact for me. So that was very hard for me at a kind of emotional or at an identity level. But I do think if you can find something that piques your interest a little bit, that's better than grinding it out and feeling stuck. Joe Rogan has, and his version of this is much cruder than the way that I'll put it, but he talks about men who are living lives of quiet desperation, where the highlight of their day is the 10 minutes where they pull away from the office to go to the bathroom, sit on their phone, and it's like, that is not abundant life. It might pay the bills, but that man is going to drift because he's going to numb because life sucks.
Yeah, you guys in San Diego, you're not liking this job. Amy's kind of liking her life a little bit because of, the kids are in private school, coffee shop, workouts, real estate license. What was what made you pull the trigger, so to speak, and move back to Colorado on this entrepreneurial journey that you guys are still on?
We were in the beginning of COVID, and throughout our time in San Diego, we had a daughter that was not doing well with the whole transition to California from life here to there. And during COVID, it became more apparent. She asked us to pray about the possibility of coming back here, that maybe part of why Jeremy was flailing and why she was flailing and things weren't making sense yet with our calling was because we needed to come back here. And we listened. We, as a family, came together and prayed and asked God what he was calling us to. And it was probably especially hard for me and the other two daughters, but especially for me because I finally had finished my real estate license, had been brought into had a connection with the largest real estate agency in San Diego and brought into a special mentorship program with them, and was about to take off. And we lived in one of the most beautiful areas of San Diego with great prices on houses.
Yeah, we absolutely loved living in San Diego in almost every regard. But after giving our lives for, whatever it was, 17 years of chasing a real strong sense of purpose, to just kind of wake up and put on a hard hat and a safety vest each day, it was just like, is this it? Is this where this was all leading?
And so when that daughter came to us, we prayed, we considered, and felt like, yeah, maybe we're supposed to go back to Fort Collins, at least for the girls to finish out their schooling and have community there again. And
it was sort of a move that we didn't move here for anything so much as maybe just hoping that the missing puzzle piece would fall into place.
Did you know what he was leading you to?
Not really.
No. We at that point started talking about doing real estate in Colorado together, and sort of prepped that direction, but
then Jeremy got a job at New York Life,
yeah.
and then kind of went that direction, and I went the real estate direction.
Mm-hmm. You guys are working together on this Houlton, what's it called? Houlton
Homes.
Houlton Homes, thank you. You guys are working together on that.
Yeah, I was doing financial advising and Amy was doing real estate, and we were just running in different directions, and it created a lot of strain on our marriage. We ended up going into the hardest season of our marriage as a result of that.
Yeah.
And part of what happened when we kind of picked our heads up and saw what was going on was we decided maybe it would be better if we were in business together. And even though I had worked very hard to get my certified financial planning certification, it just felt like for the sake of our marriage and the sake of our family, we needed to align.
Yeah. When did you bring in a business coach? At what point in this journey?
We met Donnell at the gym, had no idea who she was and how amazing she was at what she did. But after talking with her a little bit, looked her up afterwards, and we're kind of amazed. She's been on Forbes magazine and different top female entrepreneurs in America. But she really connected with us that day and saw something in us. And
that was late 2023 or maybe
No, it was
even
beginning.
January of 2024.
Yeah, it was beginning of 24. And she invited us into this group called the Winning Group, or the Winning Membership. And so she really has just loved on us and poured into us for the last 2 years now. And still just, I think, is one of our biggest cheerleaders in business and what she sees in us. And it's been super encouraging. So she's amazing and has been truly helpful for us to kind of hone in more on business that brings life to us and feels more like a calling, I think.
Yeah, I would say every entrepreneur needs a business coach, no matter where they're at in the journey. We all need someone to bounce ideas off of and to guide us along the way, don't we? So how do you talked earlier about really in this season kind of decluttering life a little bit, trying to just simplify things a little bit. At the same time, it doesn't seem like you're slowing down on business ideas and, having that ambition to build and create something that will benefit other people. How do those two go together? Wanting to live a simpler, more prioritized life, yet at the same time pursue the clear calling that God has given both of you?
It's a good question.
Yeah, I think to go back to one of your questions earlier, what am I most thankful for? I didn't share, but I think, having a stroke gave me a real renewed sense of purpose in that just that God could have taken me and I would be in bliss. I wouldn't have this left arm that I can't even lift without the assistance of my right arm, I would be in bliss with Jesus Christ for eternity. And he chose not to take me. And so here I am back here with the rest of you guys, and there's some purpose for that. So there's a strong sense of like wanting to fulfill my purpose. We want, we have each other. We want to make our impact. We want to do whatever it is that God wants us to do. So there's a sense of we're not done yet, and we want to fulfill whatever purpose God has and make our impact. And so there's that, and we want to slow down, but we're not done yet.
And truly, the real estate's what's paying the bills. We'll close out this year with the most closings we've ever had, in spite of what happened and in spite of a few months that were rough in business. But I have to keep hustling at that right now. So that's going to pick up again, and that will create some challenges, I think, for us to continue to keep the balance.
And I do what I can to continue on the team, but I'm very limited in what I can do compared to what I could do before. So we're trying to still figure out ways to move forward to pay bills that don't require the absolute grind of having to secure the next real estate transaction.
So on the side, we're both working on separate other businesses with things that we feel like we can pour our lives into and make a positive impact.
Yeah, congratulations on a good year, by the way, in spite of just the different hurdles that you all had to go over. When we know our purpose, when we know our calling, it's easier to say no to good opportunities that might distract us from our true calling and purpose, which is very individualized. I feel like that alone helps us live a life that is more disciplined and maybe slower. I don't think you guys have a slow gear, but it's not as scattered, right? Like when we could be more focused on what God has called us to and the purpose. And it takes a while to really figure that out. You guys have started something like 11 businesses over the years. And I imagine that the church isn't a business, but it's one of those starts. I was talking to a guy today, actually, at the gym. that hates his job. And he goes, dude, he says, I want to buy a business. I want to start a business. I go, well, what are you thinking about? He goes, I don't know. And then he listed off at several businesses. And it takes a lot of courage, especially in your 40s, to set a job aside that pays the bills and pursue something that God is clearly calling you to, that is like Peter walking on the water, that you could sink. Where do you find that fortitude? Where do you find that fortitude to I mean, I already know that you both are thinking about starting a couple of new things that are passion projects for you. And my thought is like, well, go for it. But how do you know, A, that's what God's calling you to, and B, and maybe more importantly is B, like, how do you get the courage to do that? Like, we're so afraid of failure. So how do you, like, you've had some failures, right? Failures. We know they're not failures, but in the world's eyes, they're like, why would you do that again? Like, these 6 or 7 things didn't work out. Like, why don't you just get a job, chill out, and work there for the next 30 years and then retire?
We've certainly had some of that spoken over us with different family members that cannot understand why we have done all that we've done over the years. But I think we're both adventure seekers, and it's one of the things that we were attracted to each other from the beginning. Is we love travel, we love trying new things, we're adventurous, and so that's been part of it.
Yeah, I think also one of my favorite quotes from our business coach is, she says, "Who loses if you don't win?" Like, who are the people that are kind of depending on you? And there's this need to, like, make sure that we don't just burn out or flicker away or waste our lives. So I think we're just in pursuit of becoming the best version of ourselves. And I just think we don't feel like we ever kind of landed somewhere that was like, I'm happy with that.
I think we're learning more and more about the importance of follow through on something until you win. And the thing we've really been praying about the last few months is, I can follow through on something until I win. I have the grit. We have the grit to do that if I believe in it, if I wholeheartedly believe this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I think we've kind of honed in on some things that we believe in enough that
goes back to your comment on clarity.
Yeah. So now that we have clarity and we have a great business coach, I really believe 2026 is going to be the year that we just really focus. And we've been forced to focus by all these other things being taken away. We're not going out at night. We're not going to these different meetings. We're at home processing. And so in between the real estate, we have all this time available to us that will continue to be our workouts that are put on the schedule, and are going to be really focusing on this passion project that we each have this year. Because we know if you stick with something long enough, and if you believe in it, eventually you're going to have good results with it.
When I started this podcast, we're 17 episodes in. You guys are 17. And I hired a podcast consultant on the front end. And what he said to me is that, like, you're going to want to quit because you're not getting, like, tangible results, you know? But he said, like, I think he said 70%, might have been 60% of podcasts don't make it past the 10th episode. He says you need to make a commitment to do it every week for a year. Can you do that? And I said, absolutely, I can do that. And I feel when we have A, the clarity, B, the perseverance, and C, the faith that the outcomes are in the Lord's hands, it allows us to build and create things, doesn't it? We have the clarity and the perseverance, and then the outcome is up to the Lord.
I think something too that's come just with age and wisdom is less fear of what people think. So trying new things, putting ourselves out on social media with different videos, and we did a YouTube channel for a while, and it's just we're putting ourselves out there, knowing some people might think it's foolish or silly or whatever. But I think I'm way less worried about what people think of me at this point and having fun with the process. And I think that's one of the blessings of being older.
Yeah. Your journey is one of perseverance through trials and tribulations, through great times and through some hard times. And the hardest hit that you guys took happened 4 months ago in September. Would you just describe it, Jeremy, the way you described it to me yesterday, and then Amy, your perspective on that as well?
Yes. Well, the actual event of having the stroke, I woke up in the middle of the night. This is on September 12th. I woke up in the middle of the night and I had my arm across my chest like this. I was laying on my back. This is going to look backwards. The way I described this is going to look backwards because of the mirror effect on the video. But my arm was here, and I could feel with my right hand. I had feeling in my right hand, but I had no feeling in my left arm because I had the stroke. And so I was holding my hand, and I was like, whose hand is this?
The alien hand.
Yeah, it is a phenomenon with strokes. They call it alien arm. I could feel it with my right hand, but my left hand could feel nothing. And I was like, somebody's arm is laying across my chest, but Amy was laying over here in bed. And so I could not figure out how her arm was coming across my body from this direction. And I kept saying to her, girl, you have got to shave your arms. They're so dang hairy.
And this was at 2 a.m. And so I was like, dude, you're having a fever dream. Go back to sleep.
Oh, my.
Unfortunately, now we know that he had already had the stroke. And so that kind of helps us with our timeline because of that conversation. Yep. But the next morning, we were supposed to be, the guest or the host for a Parade of Homes tour, and the alarm was going off early and he wasn't getting up, and I kept kind of nudging him, and eventually he cried out pain in his head and kind of crumbled in bed. So I jumped up to try to help him, and by the time I got to his side of the bed, he already tried to stand up and fell like a log onto the table.
Yeah, I don't remember much of this. I do remember slamming my head on this table, and I didn't feel any pain, but it was so loud. And I chopped my ear in half. I just landed on the corner of the table, chopped my ear in half, and was bleeding all over the place. And she called 911, and I was like...
He made me hang up.
I was like, don't call 911. Let's just get to the hospital.
I'm like, I can't pick you up.
I was like, just help me get to the bathroom. I have got to pee. And she said...
It's too late.
She said, you're already peeing.
I'm sorry. Is it okay to laugh? I mean, you're... Oh.
And then next thing I know, she called the ambulance, or she called 911 again, and it seemed like within seconds, I heard sirens, and the room was full of people, EMTs.
And he said he heard him saying positive for stroke.
Yep, they're like, can you feel this? Can you feel this? Move your foot. They're giving me instructions. And I hear him saying to his walkie, positive for stroke, positive for stroke. I didn't even know what a stroke was, Dan. I mean, I knew it was not good, but I didn't know.
I had already told him I thought he had a stroke. And I knew at that point, I knew this was really serious. And I was just trying to keep my cool to help get him to the hospital. But yeah, once we got there, as they were getting more information from the CT scan and asking me questions about the night, at some point they said it looks like he's probably had a blood clot that's been in his carotid artery for 8 or 9 hours. It looks like from the scan he's been without blood oxygen to his brain for 8 or 9 hours. And
that's not good, by the way. Your brain needs oxygen, or it will die.
It was caused from a tear in the artery, but we don't know what caused that. and then of course the clotting as a result. So they had to go in and do surgery to remove the clot. But when it got really scary was through this whole process, God gave me kind of a supernatural strength and peace to keep my wits and not panic. And, I just kept praising the Lord through it. And I told everyone that came to the hospital, we will only speak words of life, and this will be a room of worship. And so there was this strength, but I think there was also a seriousness to the situation that the doctors had to pull me aside a couple of times and literally nose to nose say, Amy, this is really serious. Like, you're going to potentially have to make a decision because his brain is swelling, and it continued to swell for a few days. You're potentially going to have to make a decision of, do you let that swelling continue and he dies?
Yeah, that would put pressure on the brainstem and shut down all my major organs.
Or do we do this risky surgery that could leave him in worse condition? So it was serious, and there was a very good chance that first weekend that Jeremy could have died. And yet, we had a real peace and joy, even, I would say, that God gave in the midst of that as we worshiped him.
There was no surgery?
No surgery. Well there was a surgery to remove the blood clot, but not the craniotomy, because the swelling stopped.
We literally had tens of thousands of people praying. That's the beauty of social media, isn't it? Because I put it out there, and people we didn't even know were praying. And sure enough, by the day that was kind of the limit of where the brain typically will keep swelling, like day 3, it started to go down, right as it was at that place where they were considering having to do the surgery. So God was in it.
How do you reconcile it? You were, Jeremy, you were arguably at the fittest point in your life. Your marriage was at the upswing. Your kids are almost fully raised. You're in the midst of a great year in real estate. This wasn't supposed to happen. How did you talk about the thankfulness, right? You came in with this reflex of thankfulness, but did you have a period?
Yeah, just my heart was cold. My heart was cold, and I wasn't leading my family well. I was seeking the Lord, but I just wasn't. I was playing fast and loose with my life and not cultivating my relationship with my wife and my daughters like I should have been, not nearly grateful enough. I was taking a lot of things for granted. I was taking my health for granted. I think my relationship with Jesus Christ was, it existed, but it wasn't.
More transactional than relational, I would say.
Yeah.
As you guys are navigating this, talk to me a little bit about your faith. How has your view of the church changed in this journey of seminary, vocational ministry, entrepreneurship, and the highs and lows of life? How has your faith changed, and how has it been shaped? And then I'd love to also hear your view of the church, how that's changed, if it has. I don't know that any of it's changed. I would assume it has.
I think after the church plant closed, we were profoundly disoriented. Just weren't, it just felt confusing. Like Amy said, there was no scandal, or it was we were faithful, and maybe I did unfortunately feel like God owed us success in that. But I was just surprised at it felt like I got pulled from the game.
And then he felt silent for years.
Yeah, I got benched with no clear explanation. That was very hard. And there was a loss of identity that came with it. Not like I questioned my identity as a follower of Jesus Christ, but I questioned, like, what's my role on planet Earth? What utilitarian purpose am I serving? I'm a terrible construction manager because I hate construction.
But I would say our deeply rooted theology of God being sovereign, God being good, has carried us through the hardest seasons. There has been a foundation, even if
Yes.
our relationship with Him felt like it was flailing. I think the deep, deep theology of God's sovereignty has carried us through
Yeah.
these seasons. And
Yeah, that gave all these sufferings. When you were asking earlier, like how do you do it? How do you have the grit? It's like, well, faith gives those suffering seasons meaning. So there was a belief that there's a story underway. Ultimately, there's a story that needs to be finished.
I would say with the most recent situation, we've been trying to find our place with church for a while since the church plant ended. And I think our theology has not changed. Our view of what community needs to look like within the church has changed. And we have found so much beautiful fellowship with Christians in San Diego and here that have very different backgrounds and theology than we do, that have deeply impacted our lives. I would say most of our community in San Diego came through our girls' Christian school. And so everyone kind of went to different churches, but we spent a lot of time together. And a lot of those people were just so loving and so filled with faith and believed in God's miracles, probably a little more charismatic, which we appreciated and learned a lot from them in. And so for a season, we were going to a pretty charismatic church here that our daughters wanted to go to for a season. And I would say that was part of the fuel when Jeremy had a stroke that gave me this, like, one of my first posts was, the doctors are saying this, but there's an unless God shows up and does the miracles that only He can do. And I would always have believed God can do that, but in this season, I truly believed God is a miracle worker. And it fueled my faith going into this, and it helps, I think, fuel my girls' faith. And so, I don't know, that's kind of a jumbled way of saying it. There's no black and white anymore. There's a black and white in who God is and His character and what we know of Him, and that has not changed. But I think what church is supposed to look like and the kind of Christians you hang out with and all of that, we're just very appreciative of differences at this point.
I think one of the things that maybe has changed in my view of the church is a lot of it is looking back on my own leadership and wishing I had done things differently as a pastor. You know, we built a church with a very strong church community mindset, and where the church was sort of like the main community, and our lives revolved around the church community to an incredible extent that perhaps, well, I don't know, as a pastor maybe that's expected, but I kind of expected everybody else to live that way as well. And so I was very dogmatic about that, put a lot of pressure on people to be as involved as I was as the pastor. And then once I started working outside the church, I was kind of like, wow, I was really pressuring people in an unhealthy way, I think. And then I look back, like, our kids didn't really do sports, and we were so focused on our church community that we really withdrew from all other civic community in many ways, and have learned how to find not church community, but good community with, like, people at our gym, for example, or in some of our business groups. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are also Christians, and so we don't have like the same thing as we would have in church fellowship with a lot of them, but we have some great friends who showed up in awesome ways through some of our sufferings, really carried us through. So
thanks for that. Yeah, there's not a ton that I was really fishing for, other than I've been out of vocational ministry for 2 years now. I preached my last sermon on January 6th, 2024. And it's just interesting how when you come out of something, how you see things and you notice things that you were a part of that you don't appreciate as much. And I mean, the church is important. Church, Big C Church is important. Having fellowship with Christians is important. But the same thing. There's so many expressions of Christ's church, and there's so much that we can learn from different traditions. Right, the gospels, the gospel. There's only one gospel. But you mentioned the charismatic church, Amy. I mean, there's so much we can learn by walking by faith, and the power and the miraculous healing that charismatics. I mean, I hate to label people, but people that come from that tradition, they just believe it. Like, God can do this. I'm going, well, yeah, I guess he could, but like, I don't know, is that normative? Like, I'm not sure that's even normal.
Yeah. I mean, we would be hanging out with people and they in San Diego, and they'd be like, oh, I heard this quote today from, so-and-so pastor. And this would have been like one of the pastors on my blacklist, It's like, this guy is not solid. He's the kind of guy that I would generally recommend, you'd probably stay away from. But this woman who shared this was just such an amazing friend to our family. And it was like
an amazing light.
She was an amazing,
one of the most loving people I've ever known.
Yep. But it was like in the past, if I had heard that, I would have kind of been like, I don't know, I don't really know if she's like solid or something like that.
I get that. Yeah, the loudest voice in my life the last year, I say it publicly, is for me, like speaking to me, the Lord through this man, has been John Mark Comer. It's been like the loudest voice of my life. And even 2 years ago, I wouldn't, as a pastor of a good, solid Reformed church, I wouldn't want anybody to know that I'm reading things from John Mark Comer because of fear of like, oh, what are they going to think? So there's bones in everything you read, in every podcast, every book, right? You take the bones and take the meat and spit out the bones, for sure. Well, thank you for that. We need to put an end on this. We could go all day. Your dog, Rocco, is that his name? Rocco? Rocky is probably getting impatient. Yeah. Well, you guys are, you're an inspiration. And I mean that. You guys, you don't fake it. I know you have days that are harder than others, but you've got this thankfulness mindset, and you are fighting for clarity and purpose. You have, I love Daniel's quote that who's going to lose if you don't win? And that really puts a focus on building businesses, building community that benefits other people. It's not just about the bottom line. It's about other people winning. And so my encouragement to you too, and my prayer is that you will just continue to go for it. When the Lord gives you clarity on the next thing and the next thing, continue to step into it. Because even seeing you guys hearing about that, like it gives me more courage. It inspires me. And so I hope people are hearing that. And Jeremy, I'm going to continue. Both Nancy and I will be faithful, be part of this group of 10,000 that are praying for you, that you get more clarity, you get increased movement, that you can do the incline with no railings. Come on, you can do that. And I want to see a video of that as well. And then Amy, you didn't have the stroke, but in many ways you are, there's a lot on your shoulders. And I'm just praying that the Lord gives you courage and perseverance, and that you continue to lean into him, have a thankful attitude, and it's okay to have a bad day every once in a while, and then just get right back up and know that God is your strength. So grateful for you guys. Thank you. And it's so good to reconnect this way. Really admire you and I love you both. And one more thing before I sign off. How can people find you and follow your journey if they want to?
I document a lot of the journey on my Instagrams. It's Amy Lucia Houlton. Jeremy's documenting on his Instagram the stroke recovery.
Yeah, I think Instagram is probably the best place.
Yeah.
Your handle is at Amy Lucia Houlton.
Lucia Lucia Houlton Houlton.
And mine is at Jeremey 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 R. Houlton.
And if somebody wants to hire you as their realtor, Amy, how do they find you? Same way, through Instagram?
Yeah, they could reach out through Instagram or get in touch with my phone number and text me. I don't know if I should put that out there, but happy to work with you in real estate side anywhere in Colorado.
Very good. Thanks, guys. I want to encourage my audience to remember that this life is about direction, not perfection. If you get hung up on perfection, you're never going to take that next best step that the Lord is calling you to. So live a life of direction, not perfection, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to Delay the Decay. If today's conversation resonated with you, follow, subscribe, and share it with someone else on the journey. Until next time, keep prioritizing what matters most. And remember, it's about direction, not perfection.